kind. Rewind. This is Dope Nostalgia.
Welcome, friends, to episode 271 of the Dope Nostalgia podcast. And I'm your host, Naomi. This week's going to be special. We're going to have 2 episodes because I wanted this one to come out in a timely manner. 35 years ago, this classic hip hop rap album came out. It's called Sex Packets by the legendary Digital Underground. It is now being released as a reissue on March 27th, which is when this is coming out. So we want to celebrate the album. You can get the vinyl and everything special about it. You'll learn about in this episode from Money B himself. An absolute privilege to have Money B on the show today. And not only that, joining him, Atron Gregory, who is also part of the Digital Underground family and is also known for being an early influence and the manager of Tupac back in the day. So we're going to be talking about Tupac a bit as well, because some people don't even know that he was a member of Digital Underground for a long time in his career before signing with Death Row. So here's some background information on Digital Underground. Wikipedia moment.
Please bear in mind that Wikipedia can be edited by anyone at any time. If I'm reading you the artist's bio, then you know it's information straight from the source.
Digital Underground is an American alternative hip-hop group from Oakland, California. Digital Underground's leader and mainstay was Gregory Shock G. Jacobs. Shock G formed the group in 1987 with Tampa hip-hop radio DJ Kenneth Kenny K. Waters and Jimmy Chopmaster J. Dwight of Berkeley, California. Heavily influenced by the various funk bands of the 1970s, Digital Underground sampled such music frequently. As Rackadelic, Jacobs designed album covers and cartoon lace liner notes in homage to Parliament Funkadelic album designs. Digital Underground is also notable for launching the career of member Tupac Shakur, as well as spinning off side projects and solo acts including Raw Fusion, Sapphire, Gold Money, and singer Mystic. Following the release of their Do What You Like single and video in the summer of '89, the band gained popularity with their song The Humpty Dance in 1990. Digital Underground toured nearly every year until 2008. This consisted of live shows in Europe, Japan, Canada, I almost said Canada wrong, Australia, and the US. While the group's origins lay mostly in Oakland and Berkeley, various characters and voices from around the US and UK appeared on the band's albums. Shock G and Money B were the only individuals to appear on every album. Other recurring key contributors were David DJ Fuzz Elliott and DJ producer Jeremy J Beats Jackson, who both assisted Jacobs in developing the sound. Shock G passed away in 2021, but Digital Underground continues to tour. Sex Packets, the group's debut album, was released in early 1990 following the success of their 2 previous singles, which were included on the album. Do What You Like, a moderate club hit, debuted the previous year, followed in January by the more successful song The Humpty Dance, a humorous dance number that reached number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 7 on the R&B chart, and number 1 on the Billboard Rap Singles chart. It was rapped by Shock G's alter ego Humpty Hump and featured a drum track with over 50 confirmed usages in other songs. Sex Packets features P-Funk samples, jazz-influenced interludes, and a combination of samples and live instrumentation, earning it positive reviews and platinum sales. And today we're celebrating the 35th anniversary of the album. Available today, March 27th, 2026. Guess who's here? Atron Gregory and Money B, right here today to celebrate on Dope Nostalgia. Atron and Money B, hip hop legends, you guys, icons. Thank you so much for coming to Dope Nostalgia podcast. How are you today?
Great. Good. How are you?
Wonderful. I was just
Great.
telling Atron that I'm up in Western Canada. I'm in Edmonton.
Okay. Is that Western? How far is that from Vancouver?
It would be a 12-hour drive from Vancouver. But yeah, it's pretty far. the other side of the
3 hour
Rockies.
flight, 2 hour flight.
Yeah, an hour and a half. Not too
Okay.
bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you guys have some experience being up in Canada, so tell me about
Yeah,
that.
we used to be in Vancouver all the time and just in BC
Yes.
Hmm.
several times. Richards on Richards.
Yes,
Well,
I always remember crossing the border of Canada.
Yeah.
Can have anything back to 10 years old on your record or you're in trouble.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding. Well, today we're celebrating the 35th anniversary of your debut album, Sex Packets. So I heard that the reissue is out on in 2 days.
Yes, March 27th.
And I saw your
It's
Instagram, Money
awesome.
B, with that beautiful vinyl copy.
Yeah, it's dope. You saw it
Yeah.
with the pop out. Oh man, it's amazing. Um, my favorite part is the booklet that has the older pictures. You know what? I didn't even read it. I just looked at the pictures. What does it say?
Just has
I got caught
everyone's
up looking at the pictures.
it just has everyone's name in it, and then I told some story, a few stories
Okay. Yeah, I got to go back and do that.
on it. And one of the stories is wrong.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
really?
we can correct that. I'll let you correct it. One of the stories talks about when you and Fuse met Shock and Jimmy. And the
Okay.
story is actually backwards. And for some reason, I sent it out backwards. I corrected it, but it
I
didn't get
remember
corrected on the story. So there's actually going to be two pieces of vinyl. I mean, there's going to be two, um, I guess, two
issues, like two
issues of vinyl.
pressings.
Thank you, man. So there's going to be one with the wrong story, and then when the next ones are able to get pressed, it's going to have the correct story. So everyone should get both copies because who knows later on one's going to have some value other than the other because they're going to have a correct story and
Yeah.
wrong story in one of the paragraphs of the liner notes.
And and in reality, that also takes us back to the days of vinyl and CDs when they always used to get the information wrong.
Yes.
Because that happened so many times. You know, we um when we did the Raw Fusion album, we had our, our album release party, and they were supposed to have like the the CD single of our single, Throw Your Hands in the Air, that they passed out at the party. And while they passed the CD out, and inside they had Organized Confusion CDs. Because we were Raw Fusion and there was a group Organized Confusion with Pharaoh Monch. We were on the same label. And they had Organized Confusion CDs in the Raw Fusion CD thing, passing them out at our album release party. Crazy.
And how long did it take everyone to figure that out? Till the
As
party was
soon as
over?
we opened them.
Party
No,
was
I
over.
mean, you get it and you look inside and they're like, what?
Yeah.
It was funny. Like you said, if anybody kept it, it's a collector's item.
Mhm. So it had your cover, but with the wrong
It
CD
had
in
our
it.
cover, but it had
Uh,
Organized Confusion CD inside. And
uh,
then also with that same release, we had a sample in the song, like it was what's the name of the all in all it's just another brick in the wall. Who sings that?
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd. So we had a Pink Floyd sample in our record that we couldn't get cleared. So they had us go back in the studio and take the sample out. And we, obviously the label charges you for studio time. You have to pay it back. So we end up going back in and remixing it. And it was like probably the $1,500 of our budget fixing the sample and remixing the song. And then the very first issue of the single, 12-inch, it had the Pink Floyd sample in it.
Oh man.
So if you have that first vinyl, you got to also have a collector's item. So this is right on par with vinyl releases.
Oh, that's interesting. So I'll have to look in the garage because I might actually have that.
You probably do.
I
Yep.
didn't know that. That's cool. I have
Yeah, if you have
another
the
collector's
if you have the
item.
first issue.
Yeah, I love collector's items and memorabilia. That's my new thing now. It's fun. Yeah.
And people that know that look for it too.
Yeah.
And it's fun finding it in the strangest places like Facebook Marketplace or something, like
Yeah.
somebody has a treasure and
Mhm.
they don't even know it's a treasure.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. When we think about that album, though, Sex Packets, when you think of the album tracks and some of the deep cuts, what are some that you wish would have been a single?
Well, go ahead, H. I'll let you go first. We might
No,
even
you
be
can go
thinking of
first
the
because
same song.
I'm going through them all in my head. Um, Probably Danger Zone for me, I think.
I
Yeah.
love Danger Zone.
Yeah.
Um, that was, Danger Zone is one of my favorite. You know what? Danger Zone is one of the songs on that album that I wish that I was on. And
Hmm.
like I always imagine me replacing Kenny K.
And
But not
you know what?
replacing him. I just wanted to be on it, right? Because I always thought it was a dope beat.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
And you
and
know,
when we go ahead.
no, I was gonna say just real quick, the way we swing because that had that Jimi Hendrix sample in it, and you would think that the label, just because it was Jimi Hendrix, would have tried to see what we could do. And I guess some
Yeah,
of
if
that
you're
came a
gonna go
little
that
later,
far to
right?
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna go that far to do it. Um, Obviously, surprise to a lot of people's surprise, Freaks of the Industry was never a single.
Yeah.
It was treated like one, and it's remembered as one of our main songs, but it was never a single.
Mm.
And I think as much success as it had, and maybe it was successful because it was like an underground thing at first, but I think if it was a real single, it would have did well. And then I also liked, I thought Rhymin' on the Funk had some
Hmm.
uh mainstream appeal, because of the flashlight sample and just it was an up tempo party type of deal. Shinin on the funk. And listen to the MCs rhyming on the funk. We solemnly swear to never bust a style that's bunk. So listen to the way that we're rhyming on the funk.
I really would like to ask you, have you ever heard this style before? You gotta say no, cause there ain't no denying. And if you said yes, you're lying. People are always wondering what's up with the underground. Are they down? Or is it just another new sound?
New sound.
We're saying things.
And when we use a beat, we use it right. Because we're not just playing things.
Spitting rhymes like a Tommy gun spraying things.
So when you see us on stage, don't just stare us down, but compare our sound to any other crew you like.
Yo,
Judge how you like.
because we're
S-H-I-N-I-N on the funk.
shining on.
Listen to the MCs rhyming on the funk. We solemnly swear to never bust a style that's bunk.
Never bust a bump style.
So listen to the way we're rhyming on the funk. Riding this like a roller coaster, hugging the curves and dipping like I'm supposed to do. For the underground true, cause I know I'm the poop, steaming hot, stinking up the dance floor. Gonna do a freelance for the funk. My friends and all the others in the industry, they wanna get with me.
Why is that, man?
Maybe it's my smooth flow. They know this guy is dope, so they get hip to the style I'm using. It's called raw fusion. Hey, no.
Yeah, you remind me because I look at Freaks as a single because we did vinyl and shipped to the clubs, but it wasn't a full on single promotion. And you're
Nah,
right, but you feel like it's a single.
you feel like it, but it was
Yeah.
never, because I just got a call the other day and people were like, well, why didn't you guys ever do a video or this, that, and the other? And I was like, because it was never a single.
Yeah.
it made itself a single, but it was never officially released as a single from Tommy Boy.
Yeah. But now we do have a lyric video for Freaks that was just released
Hmm.
last Friday. Is on
Good.
all the YouTube platforms that everyone can watch. It's pretty cool. They brought some of Shock's artwork to life through
Yep,
animation.
it's dope.
It's very cool. I don't know if you've seen it yet,
I haven't seen
Naomi,
it
but
yet.
it's pretty
No.
cool.
Yeah, you got to go check it out. It's on the Digital Underground official YouTube channel. Correct.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll share the link with the listeners too. You gotta check that out.
Hmm.
Where were you when you found out Humpty Dance was #1 on the rap chart?
Adrian, you got to know that one.
Well, I want to say drunk, but I wasn't drinking. I didn't drink during that time period, so I can't use that as an excuse for not remembering. Uh,
Mm.
so I know that. So you asked very specifically where were we when we realized it was #1.
Yeah, basically,
That I
what
don't know. I can tell
the
you that we
feeling, what do you remember and recall about that moment, basically?
well, what I recall, we were just coming back from Europe because we had gone to Europe because Do What You Like did so well in Europe, and it didn't really hit over here initially. So we
Yeah.
did a European tour, and then we came back from Europe, and then you start getting calls, people hearing this song on the radio, and everyone just loving it and everything. The label saying the record's doing really well. So I think that where specifically couldn't tell you, but
On the road.
but in California,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
coming
and
back off being in out of the country, and yeah, it was a great feeling. It was absolutely a great feeling for sure. But I think the biggest feelings, and I don't know if I've ever expressed this, and I don't know how Munn feels, but because he's a performer, I'm just on the sides. But I would sometimes be up on the stage and seeing 20,000, 25,000 people just from the top to all the bottom trying to do the Humpty dance was amazing. And I remember those moments like they were yesterday.
I can't imagine that
and
feeling.
that's the times when I was drunk.
Well,
Just kidding, kind
That's why I know. That's why I had to answer the question.
of. Right.
I know you were inspired by funk. It was a big part of the sound, but who are your musical heroes growing up?
My
Mine, probably, I was like more the hip hop guy, boom bap. So I loved KRS-One, Just Ice, Spoonie G, Treacherous Three, Run DMC, LL Cool J. And then later on, when Kane and Rakim came out, you know, those were the guys that I wanted to emulate and be like. And that's just on an MC level, as far as hip hop. Now when you say growing up, you know, growing up, I listened to whatever my mom and my dad had, but that was an array of music, like my mom loved the standards, of course, and my dad's Stevie Wonders, the Marvin Gayes, the Temptations, all of that stuff. But then as I got into probably my preteen, like 10, 11, 12, I lived with my dad, and my dad had a roommate, and he was like a punk rocker. And so he was into like the Clash, and my dad bought Devo and Jay Giles band and uh you know, just all kind of wild stuff. And he was into Prince like early before people even really knew what Prince was about. And Rick James, my dad was a huge Parliament Funkadelic fan too. So I grew up with all of these influence. He even, we had uh what Santana, you know, everything. Like, especially coming where I come from, you would think that I only listened to like the soul and R&B hits, but I was even at a young age, I was exposed to all these different types of music that was just that we was jamming to. So um whenever working with any producers, like say with Shock or Fuse or anybody else, anytime something was introduced, it wasn't so out of bounds for me to say, "Oh no, what's that?" It was like, "Oh yeah, I know that. Let's mess with it." You know what I mean?
A lot of the pioneers like yourselves, and you're have those influences that are so all over the map, and that's why you end up
Hmm.
getting like brand new sounds, some stuff that people have never done before.
Hmm. Yeah, I think all of us, even though we all had our own individual influence, we were like-minded in a way that we were open to other, influence because we had all listened to, like Shock. He was, we know that he was a huge Parliament funkadelic, but he liked jazz and he listened to, and he knew about some classical stuff, but then he was also hip to the older, like origin hip hop. That some of the stuff that I didn't know, he would tell me. And Fuse, even though he was big into funk and everything else, he did grow up and he had like AC/DC and some of the rock records. But I went, when I graduated high school, I went to like an all white high school where I graduated. So I heard all of that Poison, Bruce Springsteen stuff. You know what I mean? So I was
Yeah.
familiar with all of it. And so we all kind of could relate to each other's taste and suggestions and things that we wanted to do.
And I would think for talking because Shock was the main producer for Digital Underground. And,
Mm,
like Munn said, Parliament was in George Clinton, Funkadelic, everything from the artwork to the music to the sound, that he was all about that. He was heavily into like Herbie Hancock, a lot of jazz stuff. One of his favorite songs was It Ain't Necessarily So, which is an old jazz classic.
Mm.
Um, so he jazz was a big thing for him. Funk was a big thing. He grew up in Florida, so a lot of the Miami bass sound he was connected to as well. So I would say for him, not being able to hear to speak for himself, those were some of his big influences. He and Earth, Wind and Fire for me was like my favorite group. I have a lot of music. Like Mun said, growing up in the Bay Area, you just get, especially during those times periods in the 70s and 80s and 90s, music was just so vast. You had everyone from the Edgar Winter Band to Santana to Sly to Tower of Power,
yeah, Lenny
you know,
Williams,
yeah,
Uncle
Lenny
Lenny.
Williams.
That's my
So
uncle.
is he really your uncle?
Yeah, he's my so he's my brother Cullen.
Uh-huh.
That's his real uncle family, but that's Uncle Lenny.
Did you know?
His
So
his
I'm
daughter,
sorry,
his
Nam. You
daughter,
can
I'm
cut
real
this out
tight
or you
with.
cannot cut this out. It's up to
No,
you.
this is
But
good.
did you know Lenny Williams is Lonzo from the World's Wrecking Crew's cousin? You would,
Nah, see, we're all related.
and Lenny
That's why
lives
we
right
all
up,
look alike. Nah.
Lenny lives right up the street from me, about 15 minutes,
Yeah.
about 15
Tell him
20
to talk to
minutes.
Money B.
I will next time I talk to him. That's funny. I didn't know that. So, but anyway, back to the music. So, the Bay Area is just like Digital Underground could not have come out of LA at that time period, could not have come out of New York at that time period, could not have come out of Florida at that time period, because the Bay Area gives artists room to be experimental. And that's really what in that time period, that's really what Digital Underground was creatively experimental, was nothing that anyone else was doing at that time period. So the Bay Area's influence is huge because it gave the space for the guys to do what they wanted to do. And I think that was huge. And that's why Digital Underground had so much success when everyone else was going in a niche, and Digital Underground really had their own thing.
So it would
And
be like
and has their own thing, not just had, but has their own thing.
Was it kind of like people were going to LA and New York if they were just going to sign a label being like the same thing that's already on the airwaves kind of thing?
Well, I mean, that's how um, art is. You have something that's big, and then all the labels want to replicate that. Now
Yeah.
they say they want to do something different, but many A&R people, at least at that time, wanted to replicate something because you know A&R positions, I think, are on 3 year were on 3 year contracts. I don't know what they are now, but they were on 3 year contracts. So you had to do something that was successful. And if someone else did it, just like in sports, you do if you have a wide receiver in football that's running a 4-1, and he's good, everyone's going to want to find someone that runs a 4-1-40
Yep.
in football. It's all kind of the same. So when you do something unique, you have to prove that it's viable. We put first Digital Underground record out independently, and it did well, and that's how we were able to prove that it was viable. Then people were interested.
Now, both being from Oakland, did you have a relationship at all with Hammer?
I mean, we toured.
I
I,
do
I toured
now,
with
but
him. I toured with him in NWA days when I was a tour manager with
Yeah.
NWA. We toured together, but not like
Not at the time.
not necessarily a close relationship, but we all get along with each other. I mean, that's the one thing that I think was great about Digital Underground. And man, you can speak on this too. I think that we got along with everybody.
Mhm.
Even
yeah.
today, there's rappers that don't get along with each other, but we actually got along with everybody, and I think that was a great thing for us.
Mhm.
And for me, what's great about that is that to this day we still have that relationship with most of the artists that came up in the Bay with us. Like I can pick up my phone and text E40 or call Too Short or, you know, I can call Big Marv. I can't call Hammer direct, but I call Big Marv and he can give Hammer a message for me if I want. And, like the other day, no, yesterday, as a matter of fact, this thing came on social media about this song that I wrote for Jason Kidd, the basketball player.
Mm.
It was on this basketball. Do you remember that, Adrian? Basketball's best kept secret. It was a compilation of NBA players that rapped. So I wrote a song for Jason Kidd and did the song with him and kind of coached him through it. QD3, Quincy Jones' son, produced the track, and it was on this album, and it popped up, right? And so everybody's tripping. Obviously, people that are 30 something and younger act like if it didn't happen during their lifetime, it's amazing, right?
Oh my
So they're like,
goodness.
"Oh my
I know.
God!" Da, 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 da. So it's this thing, but I'm only saying that to say is the reason that I knew about it is that Festo from Souls of Mischief tagged me. It was like, "Man, you see this?" So I'm just saying we all have this. We all still communicate when we see each other, or we can reach out to each other, and the relationship is and has always been good with most of the artists in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have that kind of a community. Good.
Oh, and Jason Kidd's from Oakland too.
Very
Yeah.
nice. And
went
I am
went to Cal Berkeley.
I am
He went
sorry
to Cal.
for your loss of Shock G. How have you
Mhm.
carried on sharing his legacy? And what can we do as fans to honor him?
Well, for one, you can get the vinyl, the new vinyl,
Both
and,
copies.
and celebrate him. And I think Atron and I both, the way to honor him is just to continue to do the work and make sure that people don't forget, you know, because, and I'll take an analogy where, how people always still think that Tupac is alive. And I was like, as long as we keep talking about him, he'll always be alive. He'll be alive in our hearts. And it's the
Mm.
same thing with Shot. We just because a lot of times if you're out of people's sight and mind, you just fade away, right? And especially the further you get away from it, the people that remember, they fade away too. And if there's nobody to continue to remind you, you know, about what was great, then we won't know. So as long as I'm here, as long as I'm able, I'm going to continue to represent Digital Underground, Shock G, Tupac, Smoothy Smooth, Saphir, everybody that's not here to, continue the journey with us.
Yeah, I just echo what Mun says. We just continue spreading information when we're able to, do something that Tommy Boy's doing. They have a couple new songs on the record. There's always music, hidden gems somewhere in some studio and on, you know, on a 2 inch. Back then we did everything on 2 inch. We didn't. If for people who don't know who 2 inch is, they're actually tapes that you put on machines, and that's how you recorded the music. So, opposed to how music recorded now is all digitally, right?
Yeah.
So, there's always hidden gems that we have. We try to, or we make an effort to get samples cleared that we couldn't clear back in the 90s because a lot of the people whose music was being used, they didn't like that. Now they don't seem to mind. They understand the creativity in hip hop, that it's not just putting a record on and rapping over it, but there's actually real creativity in it. But musicians didn't believe that or didn't think that at first. But, I think they understand that much more now.
Mm.
And so we just honor his legacy and the others we've lost by just continuing doing things. Now with social media, you put a picture up, put a song up, put a blurb up, do this, just various things to keep their memories alive because they mean a lot to us personally, but they also I believe brought a lot of joy to people, and we want to continue spreading that joy and making sure the music is still available so the soundtracks of people's lives are still open to be listened to, through playlist. People have YouTube playlists and Spotify playlists and all these different playlists. Add the songs to your playlist, share them with your friends. That's what I think people can do.
And pass them through the generations.
Yeah.
Also, one thing that I don't say it much, and I'm sure Adrian never says it, but the other thing about, with what we do, people have to also realize that Digital Underground was not just Shock G and Tupac. They didn't do it by themselves. Atron, Sleuth, me, DJ Fuse, Chopmaster J, Smoothy Smooth, Pee Wee, all of us had a role in making Digital Underground what it became. And we are still here. So just because one or two of our guys isn't here with us doesn't mean that it stops. Digital Underground does still exist. It exists right here with both of us that you're talking to and all the other members that survive and they may not even be actively doing music, but they still represent Digital Underground in what they do. So I also carry it because I'm still here. I'm still active. So, and I'm still creating, and we still have things that we want to share. And we are still Digital Underground, and we still do it.
It's important to celebrate that,
Yeah, celebrate me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny, but yo, I'm making money, see? So yo, world, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round. I'm the new fool in town, and my sound's laid down by the underground. I drink a bottle of Hennessy you got on your shelf, so just let me introduce myself. My name is Humpty, pronounced with the umpty. Yo, ladies, oh, how I like to funk thee. And all the rappers in the top 10, please allow me to bump thee. I'm stepping tall, y'all, and just like Humpty Dumpty, you're gonna fall when the stereos pump me. I like to rhyme, I like my beats funky, I'm spunky. I like my oatmeal lumpy, I'm sick with this. Straight gangster Mac. But sometimes I get ridiculous. I'll eat up all your crackers and your licorice. Oh, yo, fat girl, come here, are you ticklish? Yeah, I called you fat. Look at me, I'm skinny. It never stopped me from getting busy. I'm a freak. I like the girls with the boom. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. I'm crazy. Allow me to amaze thee. They say I'm ugly, but it just don't faze me. I'm still getting in the girls' pants, and I even got my own dance. The Humpty Dance is your chance to do the hump. Come on. Do the Humpty Hump. Come on, do the Humpty Hump. Check me out, y'all. Do the Humpty Hump. Just watch me do the Humpty Hump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hello, listeners. It has been such an experience doing this show for the last 5+ years, but it gets expensive. If you didn't know, there's a lot of costs that go into making a podcast. That's why we have our Patreon page, patreon.com/dope nostalgia. That's where you can go and subscribe, get all the extra details, bonus videos, and early podcast release for as little as $1 a month. Please subscribe today and help support one of your favorite podcasts.
Yo, this is Scotty G.
I'm DJ T.
I'm HB.
And you're listening to Dope Nostalgia Podcast. Oh!
Yeah, Dope Nostalgia. Y'all don't get it? Y'all got it now. And be dope, because it's nostalgeristic.
Go get that, go watch that, and do whatever you need to do. Dope Nostalgia. Funk Bees, Funky Bunch, world famous Funky Bunch.
World famous Funky Bunch because testing the mic's a pleasure. Dope now nostalgia. Oh!
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is Soundtrack Your Life, the podcast that's all about the film and TV soundtracks you love.
The best and weirdest songs from cult classics and hit TV shows, we're talking about them. Great guests, we've got those too. Listen in for interviews with bands like Save Ferris and We Are Scientists, plus hilarious chats with the best pop culture critics out there.
New episodes drop on Monday, and you can find them wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, yo, kid, where's the party? Check it out, I'm Kid, and I kid you not, I like the Sprite. I like the Sprite a lot. My name is Bright, but I'm not playing, I like the Sprite. You know what I'm saying? I like to kick it live to a sound that's hype. I like to kick it too. I like the Sprite in you. I like the lime and taste. I like a pretty face. I like the lemon lime. You say that all the time. The lemon has the twist of unexpectedness. Like this. Who invited them? I don't know, but I'm with it. I like the Sprite in you.
You know, there's people that don't know that Tupac was in the group.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
Right.
you know, it's interesting. That's one of the things over the last few weeks I've realized because I had someone doing a lyric video to Blue View, which is one of the new songs on the Sex Package re-release.
Mm.
And the person who's doing it he didn't know who Digital Underground was because he's young. I saw his art on Instagram and like, okay, and I see him doing videos for people. I'm like, oh, I want to use this guy. He didn't know who Digital Underground was. He knew who Tupac was, but he didn't know that Tupac came from Digital Underground. So one of the things that, you know, man, I haven't told you is I've been thinking about this for the past few weeks, is doing something on social media to let people know that Tupac came from Digital Underground, because then maybe they'll reach back and listen to some of the Digital Underground music too. Because you're absolutely right. So many people that don't know that. I was surprised. I just thought it's a fact and everyone knew it, but you know, people don't.
And for the people, you know, so a lot of people don't know that he was in our group, but then there's people that know that he was in our group, right? But the overwhelming narrative is that, okay, Tupac started with Digital Underground and he was just like it was a blip in his career. And then he went on to have this long career with Death Row Records, when it's actually the opposite. You know, if Tupac's career spanned, just say from him trying to do it professionally, let's just say 89 to 96, or even 90 to 96, 6 years of that, you know, from 89, 90 to 93, which is 4 years, he was primarily with Digital Underground, you know, and then he went to jail, right? And then he was on death row for 9 months. So really the majority of his career was with Digital Underground. And he never left, he never got kicked out of the group. We didn't say, oh, you're no longer a member. So, and he was only on death row for 9 months. But
that's wild.
We lose, we our mind tells us that he was on death row for 30 something years because he passed while he was on it. But even when the Machiavelli album came out, he was already dead.
Yeah.
Right. So he wasn't even like an active member of death row. He was no longer with us. But we look at Tupac as if he was death row for life and kind of had this little stint in Digital Underground when it was the opposite.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you really think about it, the majority of his professional career, he was active with Digital Underground and representing Digital Underground. Because I even consider when he did, even as he was doing Me Against the World, right? Shock was still producing on that record. He did So Many Tears and he did some records that I don't think came out. H could speak to that. But he did, well, like 3 of the records came out, right? Temptations, Me Against the World, and I feel like it was one other one.
So Many Tears, like you said.
No, I said So Many Tears, Temptations, and both of those were singles. Yeah. Or did Easy Mo B do Temptations?
I'm not sure. And I'm not sure So Many Tears wasn't a single though. So Many Tears was kind of like Freaks of the Industry. They sent it out, but it wasn't a video. Temptations was an actual video.
I feel like Dear Mama and Temptations were the only singles on that album.
May have been.
But still, he was still drawing from Digital Underground, going to Shock for beats, coming to us, and you know what I mean. So, and then I feel like after he got out of jail, that was the full transition of just moving into this whole other world, right? But it was a short period as compared to the period before. Like, there's this period, I'm saying this period, then there was jail, and then there was this period.
Right. And
then after that, it's the now period, which is this of him not being here. But we think of death row as this, and it wasn't.
I think it's because he had such a huge vault of material that was released, or I don't know if there's still more, but I think that might contribute to that too.
Yeah, but even that's not death row because that's Amaru, which was his and his mother's company, his and his mother's company.
Yeah, and see, you just said it. You feel like you just said, well, he had this vault, but he recorded all of that from his whole, life. He was recording. He never stopped. He didn't just automatically start recording a lot with Death Row. He had been recording, but you, like you said, you associate it with that because it came out after he died, and that was the last thing that our minds see him with the red clothes on and all of that stuff. It's like.
It's good that you guys clarified
that way.
Yeah, and even after he got out of jail, he was supposed to be in the next Digital Underground video right after he got out, but he didn't. They were supposed to shoot him at 10 o'clock, and I think he didn't show up till about 3 or 4.
Are you talking about oregano flow?
Yeah, oregano flow. Yeah, he was.
He pulled up. He came.
Yeah. So he, in matter of fact, him and Suge came. They came together.
Yeah.
So that he would,
and about 40 other people.
So there was never any animosity or anything like that. He just was, on his solo journey. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified that because it's interesting to know. Yeah. How much of that influence was there in the beginning, and for fun facts, I want to know what was one of your favorite TV show performances or appearances back in the day, and who were some of your favorite hosts?
I think Arsenio, right? And for me, probably to me, the memorable performance that we did on Arsenio is when we did All in the Same Gang, when we were all there with Easy and Hammer and Ice-T and King T and Young MC and JJ Fad and like everybody was there, and we were just all like in this space hanging out for a brief moment before we did this song, and that was kind of cool to me. Even though individually I probably knew all of them, but for all of us to be in this one space and kind of seeing how we all interacted with each other and was joking around, that was kind of cool. And I think I want to say we did that included. We probably did Arsenio like 4 times,
Yeah.
Adrian.
Yeah.
And then even
That sounds
Tupac
about
went
right.
back and did it by himself another 1 or 2 times, right?
Yeah.
So Arsenio was a good friend of Digital Underground,
Yes, he was.
or
I
his
would say
producers were.
for me, is not being an actual performer. The one that I like the most is Apollo Theater with
Oh yeah, that was good.
with the unknown rappers. I don't. So if you get a
Yeah.
chance to go, because that's up on YouTube. So everyone had. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the guys came out with bags over their heads, and they were announced as unknown rappers. Like, we're the unknown rappers, and they were getting booed off the stage. And then they turned
Oh,
around, took the bags off their heads, pulled the coats up, the curtains came up, and turned around, and it was Digital Underground performing. What song was it, man?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, you mean Kiss You Back?
Kiss You Back. Yeah, Kiss You Back.
Yeah, it was Kiss You Back. Kiss You Back was like the hottest song. It was killing New York at the time.
Yeah, and it was at
And
the
basically,
and it was at the Apollo Theater. So that's
yeah, it
just
was Showtime at the Apollo. And if you know
yeah.
Showtime at the Apollo, they had the Sandman, right?
Mhm.
That comes if when you get booed off, Apollo's notorious for booing people. And then the
right. Because
Sandman
tough crowd to win
comes.
over.
Yeah, and we had this crazy idea. What if we could make the Sandman come out and then right before he get to us, start performing? Like we had this crazy idea before we went, and we really planned it out of how we were going to pull it off, and we actually pulled it off, and it was dope. And speaking to that, um, and you probably see like the lights and things behind me because here is where I do I have the Digital Underground podcast with Money B on Patreon, where it's a podcast of just breaking down some of the great moments of Digital Underground. Like right now, I'm doing the making of Sex Packets, where I'm breaking down each and every song on the album. But I'm also going to do break down the Apollo Theater performance, where I just tell
Nice.
you everything that was going on and how how we really had to think out to pull this thing off and how we actually did it. So you definitely want to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
we
too,
gotta
Atron,
make sure
Huh?
everybody knows to check it out on
because I'm sure you
Patreon.
want to know.
Yeah.
A lot went into it, and just for example, you know what I mean? Like to to pull it off, we couldn't let people know who we were, not even the people that were on the show. Obviously the
Mhm.
Sandman couldn't know, Kiki Shepard couldn't know, and the host couldn't know. And it just so happened the host was Mark Curry, who was from Oakland.
Oh, no
So, and
way.
I have like this distinctive voice. So when you come out, he asks you questions. And we knew before we went there that I couldn't talk because if I did, he would know it was me. So when you watch it, you see him go, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he puts the mic to my face, and I just go, and then Shot goes in, "We gonna rap." So yeah, so it's an interesting story when you hear the whole
Yeah.
thing and how it all went down.
Good. We'll
But you
have
definitely
to
have to see the performance first. Watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
watch a performance and check out the podcast on Patreon.
Yep.
Now, you had a solo album at the end of the 90s too, Talking Dirty.
Yep.
Yeah. What was one of your favorite tracks on that album?
Um, there's a couple. Uh, Obviously I liked Talking Dirty After Dark,
Mhm.
which was the title track, and it featured the Delinquents, and it was produced by Jay Cut, but it featured Four Racks and Mechanics and the Delinquents, who are known in Oakland. That's like a local favorite song. One of the other songs is a song that Shock produced called Miss Bartender. And, he remade like the Sweet Sticky Thing by the Ohio Players. And, and it just sounds like a digital underground record. It's Shock playing. It's got um Groove from what was the name of the group with Eric Baker? They did Top of the
Kenya
World.
Groove?
Kenya Groove, yeah. Groove from Kenya Groove. He's singing on there with Shock, and Shock produced it, and Shock's ad-libbing, and it's a real digital underground sounding record. And like people remember that it was a well-produced album, but not a lot of people heard it. And I feel like even that track, Atron, we might think about bringing some of that back because it's such a great produced song by Shock, and not a lot of people heard it. And I still, and I listen to it now, and it just sounds good still. Like, so, don't be surprised if we bring some parts of that song back.
Great idea.
You just go from man to man. I just don't seem to understand why I don't have a drink in hand. This bartender, please. If I can slow you down sometime, I think that I made up my mind. Oh, really? If you be so kind, this bartender, please.
While I got your attention, yes, I like to make a request. Give me a Hennessy straight, boo, cause I've been stressed. No way, back up. In fact, I feel like a mudslide. From what I've been through, got me less feeling like Bud Light. The club life, fakes, hoes, and phonies. The playground for lonelies. And no, you don't know me, but you let me go on. Here go tip, thanks for listening. Maybe I'm fishing, but I seen her eyes glistening. Or was it reflections of my projecting? What I stepped in, I couldn't get out, cause while my rectum was out on the dance floor, she making Long Island teas. I'm staring, swearing, homegirl smiling at me. The house music came on, told some hooker to let my ass get a little rest, cause I don't dance to that fast shit. I'll get your number later, I got the bell. Freak dog, Doc Nasty, heading back to the well to quench my. But since I ain't the only in the club with cotton mouth, I had to clinch my position at the bar. Niggas is flagging you, I'm bragging too. My folks telling them I'm bagging you.
Every time that you walk by, I get this twinkle in my eye. Stuff you got makes me hot. This bartender, please. I'd like to sit with you a while. I like your style. Everything makes me smile. This bartender, please.
Okay, now watch it.
Yeah, Mun and I talk about a lot of ideas all the time. You asked earlier about keeping the legacy alive of Shock, but it's like he said, it's not just Shock, it's digital underground. And it's so many people that are involved, and we talk about that stuff all the time. What can we do? Like he just said, maybe we need to think about that song because not a lot of people heard it. So we're just constantly talking about what can we do to keep to keep digital underground going and keep the legacy of our fallen soldiers and now ancestors, I guess you would call them, alive and not only in our hearts, they'll never die in our hearts, but in everyone else's hearts and minds as well. And go out and see Digital Underground show. Mun and young Hump, who is Chris, but he does Humpty with Mun. They do a great show. They really,
How did
really
young Hump become the protege?
Well, obviously Atron and Shock knew Chris well a long time before I did. If you want to do the backstory, Atron.
Yeah, I can. The backstory of Chris for me goes real deep. So when I very first started in the music business, I was a road manager for Rodney Franklin, and this is what, late 70s, I guess, or yeah, late 70s, early 80s. He was a jazz keyboardist, and we were in the studio at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, which would be in the East Bay, was the big studio where everyone recorded. So we were in the studio, and Stanley Clarke and George Duke were in the studio as well. and they were on Sony, and Rodney was on Sony, or maybe it was called Columbia at the time. And so we would hang out and talk, and I got to meet Stanley and George and got to know them. Then when I moved down to LA, I got to know Stanley even better, and we became friends. His son, Chris, was about 2 or 3 years old at the time. And so I knew Chris when he ate his first piece of pizza. I was with him when he ate his first piece of pizza and just, knew him growing up all these years. And then, it's a multiple layered story, but one of the most interesting parts of the story for me is I was sitting at home watching TV and Chris calls me and he said, I guess I just got the part to play Shock on the All Eyes on Me in the All Eyes on Me movie.
Wow.
So, and this is, I guess he's in his 20s now then, right? If I'm not mistaken, man. But I knew Chris just all his life, and Stanley lived in Topanga Canyon and Shock lived in Topanga Canyon, so I could be at either one of their houses and see, like I could see Shock's balcony from Stanley's backyard, and I could see Stanley's backyard from Shock's balcony. I could just go to to their houses, and so I also introduced um, Shock and Stanley to each other as well. At one point, Chris played played some piano music that Shock did to Stanley. Stanley shared it with Chick Corea. Chick Corea sent a message back to Stanley to go to Chris to go to Shock that Shock should do a solo piano record. So it's a multi-layered thing, and I hope that wasn't too convoluted, but it's very multi-layered. But the relationship with Chris started really when he was 3 years old, but Shock on his own decided that Chris Chris would do well playing Humpty. That had nothing to do with me. That was just really Shock on his own. And I guess he took that to Mun and
Yeah,
and
because he
Mun,
was
Mun, you can
he
take it from
was
there. Yeah.
yeah, he was mentoring Chris to audition for the role in that movie, right? And you know, and I don't know how long he had been doing that, but I just know like probably right around so Shock and I right around, in 2008, I think we had decided we was gonna kind of just do our own separate things, and it kind of lasted for a second, and then we kind of started doing shows for very briefly, like right around 2012. But by 2013, it was like we weren't doing it because we weren't really seeing eye to eye on how we thought the show should go. Shock wanted to like I don't know what you call it, Adrian, but he just wanted to play like jazz
Well,
piano,
mhm.
and he would, just for instance, we do shows, and he'd go into these long tangents of just playing like for himself, and then he would forget to do the Humpty dance, which is why people were paying to come to the show. And and I would be like, bro, we gotta do what these people, because the promoters would scream at me because Shock wasn't listening to nobody, right? And so there was kind of like this divide, and then it got to be where he would, and I don't even know if you know this, Adrian, because this is kind of part of the reason, right? So we'd be doing shows, and Shock would be playing, and I would just tell Fuse, bro, go to the next one. And so it was like this power struggle of me trying to keep the show on track and sort of do what like the hits and what people came to see, and him feeling like, well, he wanted to express himself and kind of do this thing. And well, sometimes George would do shows and he wouldn't even do flashlight, and they would say, you remember that time we went and he didn't do, and I'm like, people are not thinking like that. They're not going, ooh, that was cool that he didn't do the hits that we paid to see. So we were,
No
so that
doubt.
was the thing, right? And then we kind of, he's like, all right, well, you do it the way you want to do it, and I'm gonna go do this. I was like, all right, cool. So maybe like 2014, Shock calls me. He's like, look, because I didn't know Chris. He's like, I got this guy, and I've been working with him, and I'm telling you, man, you could use him, and you can go do it the way that you want to do it. Plus, I want him to be like Humpty moving forward, so that Shock could just remain Shock and do whatever.
Mm.
And at first, I was like, nah, because I was like, he just sending somebody to spy on me. I thought it was a trick. I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. He's like, what you talking about? And he's like, no, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. So I just happened to run into Chris at it was actually at a Tupac Grammy event at the Grammy Theater in LA. And as soon as I saw him, I knew that that was the dude that Shock was talking about. And maybe Shock had sent me a picture or two, but I knew it was him. And we looked at each other and he knew who I was. And I was like, you know what, let me go talk to bro. And we kind of decided, let's try something. And we did. And I had him come out and do a show with me. And it worked. And so we started working together. And then I told Shock, yeah. And he was like, see, I told you. Da, 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 da. And then he started talking about, yeah, because when we going to do this and do that and get back together, just go ahead. At this same time, right around 2015, after we had already started working, but it was new, Chris independently auditioned for um, All Eyes on Me, and LT Hutton, who's one of the executive producers or whatever, he wanted me to play myself in the movie. So both of us independently had to audition, and our journey to getting the part to play me and him to play Shock and for us to be Digital Underground in that movie. So the movie producers, they didn't know that we were already performing as Digital Underground. And then we both got the part. And it was just ironic that we were Digital Underground in that movie and people not knowing that that was the beginning, even before that, we were already starting to perform as digital, as a, for, an iteration of Digital Underground, because Shock was still doing the Shock G Trio at the time. And, the first couple of shows, we I don't know if we didn't say we were Digital Underground. It's like Money B featuring Humpty Hump or whatever it was. And then Shock was like, hey, you guys you can't say you're Humpty Hump because I'm still doing shows and it's confusing people. So then that's when we had to come up with a new name, right? And we had a few things. Was it going to be Son of Humpty or this, that, that? And then collectively between Chris, Shock, and we settled in on Young Hump being the proper name. And, because Young Hump, because Humpty Hump is a character, sort of like 007 or Batman. It's a character to be played by whoever. So, and he was not Humpty's son. It was, and there's a backstory to all of these characters, right? So the backstory was that Young Hump was a relative of Humpty Hump, not his son, but a relative, like, like a nephew, cousin nephew type thing. So he had his own personality separate because he couldn't be what Shock created, right? So, Shock told him, and I even told him, I was like, make it your own, make Young Hump. Don't try to be Humpty Hump. Create Young Hump. Young Hump has his own character. They're similar and they have similar tastes. They both like fat girls, you know what I mean? But they dress different. They drink different things. They have their own separate personalities. And I think once Chris realized that he wasn't a slave to having to recreate or copy something and to create something new, that's when it took off.
I think fans would appreciate that too. That it's not a copy.
Yeah, it's not a copy. So it was never intended for us to try to fool people into thinking that that was Humpty Hump. He's Young Hump. He's a relative, and he comes from the lineage of the Humphreys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he is his own person, character, personality. Like you'll never see, or you might, but in general, you'll never see young Hump wearing the big fur coats that Humpty Hump wore. That was Humpty Hump style. Young Hump wears the cool hip sneakers and the dope hat. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's sort of like, I'm hoping that I'm giving people a little bit of insight so that they don't think that we're trying to do one thing when we're actually on this different path.
No, it's very, very clear now. And I appreciate that you shared that. I did see a video with the two of you. It's a great song you did with the Funky Bunch called Wait For It.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, we got a new one.
I
Bro.
know. They're good friends of the podcast. So I'm so excited
Yeah,
with
we
what's
just
going
did
on.
we shot a video. So they have a song. I'm sorry. They did an album. It's like dedicated to like 90s R&B and hip hop. And so they got like CeCe Peniston and all of these, I can't think of the names, but all of these great
Cisco.
90s artists in it. Huh? Oh,
Cisco's
Cisco
on
from
there.
True Hill.
Yeah.
Cisco's on there. You probably know more than I do, but we did another song with them, and I believe it's going to be probably one of their first singles. And we shot the video in Florida when we were down there recently. So it's dope. It's a nice song.
I'm excited for it. And excited for the vinyl. 2 days away.
Yes.
The reissue.
Yep. Hell yeah. You got to get that vinyl, man. That vinyl's so dope.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yep. I'm still, like I said, I still got to read the words, the booklet.
And what Mun didn't mention, there's pop-up art. So, Shock turned a lot of art into the label that, some got used, some didn't get used. So this was something that he turned into the label. So when you open the vinyl,
Have you seen it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got mine. Hold on.
Mine's another room.
Hold on.
But yeah, when you open the vinyl, he'll show you. There's pop-up art of Shock's art, and it's just gorgeous. It's really amazing.
I'm
Yeah, you
glad.
can see
Yeah,
it.
I want to
So,
see.
you
I
know,
want
you
to see.
got
I
the-
did see the Instagram, but I want to see that for our listeners to check that out.
How's
The
it go?
pop-up.
Like this?
Yeah. Amazing.
And that's all Shock's art that he drew.
That is wild. I love that.
That's dope, right?
Very.
And you can just fold it up.
Yeah.
And then it has like the colored vinyl.
Oh, wow.
It's dope.
All right, friends, you
I'm
have to
impressed.
definitely get this album, get this vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
It's out right away. But I'm so appreciative of you two telling me your stories today. Like, it's just incredible, your history and just the amazing things that you guys have done together as musicians, as a group. Thank you for sharing with me.
Well, thank you for having
Appreciate
us.
it.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Thanks for having us.
You can follow Dope Nostalgia on Instagram at dope_nostalgia and YouTube at Dope Nostalgia Podcast. Call and leave a message on our voicemail toll free. The number is 1-888-741-9192.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work. Hey, friends. I kind of miss getting those messages on my answering machine like we used to back in the day. What I'd really love is to hear from you, the listeners of Dope Nostalgia. This is your chance to be on the show, giving feedback, telling us what you love, what you hate, and who you'd like to see more of. Call us at our new toll-free number, 1-888-741-9192. Leave us some feedback. Your message could be played on the show. So give us a call, 1-888-741-9192. Toll free.